Mayong adlaw kanatong tanan, especially sa akong mga kasilingan dinha sa Davao City Media Council. I am Attorney Bert M. Estrada. I am from IBP Bukidnon, and I am the immediate past national president of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines. During my 2-year term as national president, I was given the opportunity to be a part of the Philippine team that was invited to go to Sweden to study and learn from their system in order to come up with our own change initiative to promote uh, press freedom and freedom of expression through media self-regulation in a democratic framework. I apologize, I could not make it in person. However, I will try my best send out this recorded video to perform my task in presenting to you a part of our change initiative discussing about alternative dispute resolution as an incentive in our media citizens councils in order to promote media self-regulation. So allow me to share my very short presentation. Right. So when we were invited to go to Sweden for 2 weeks and attended numerous lectures and study visits in their different institutions, one of the things that caught our attention was that in the Swedish model and how they have still a very robust media, even a state media that they have, no, and private media. In their model or law, there's still criminal libel. No? They have not decriminalized libel. I know for a fact that the struggle or the advocacy has been a long-standing one here in the Philippines to decriminalize libel, as it is perceived to be used as a weapon by those in power to control media and hence controlling the narrative or the agenda, and thereby ultimately violating the people's rights to accurate information. So in their model, however, we saw that it is their media or their press freedom rather is a very robust one. They have these mechanisms, but they did not need to decriminalize libel. What they had in place was an alternative rather. So there we learned about the media ombudsman. That the media ombudsman, which was chosen and appointed by the media council, which is also supported by their government, but because of, I think, of the maturity of their government and perhaps their professionals, then that has not become a problem for them when government has provided support for them, because they can work independently despite the resources provided by government to them. So one of the mechanisms that the media council in Sweden has is the appointment of the media ombudsman. The media ombudsman has two roles in the media council and in the promotion of press freedom. and the freedom of expression and people's right to accurate information. The first one is that the media ombudsman uh, is always on the lookout for any forms of attack on press freedom or the freedom of expression. And then when he sees one, he calls out such attacks coming either from their government or from institutions or individuals. And then he calls them out through issuance of statements, perhaps maybe even filing of cases, no, when needed. So point being is that there's an act from any institution or even from government that is attacking press freedom or uh, the freedom of expression, then the media ombudsman issues such statement to protect uh, freedom of the press and people's right or freedom of expression. And the second role that the media ombudsman plays is that uh, he provides the avenue for alternative dispute resolution through arbitration, and he becomes the arbitrator on complaints filed against media practitioners when an individual or an institution or group feels that they have been harmed. No? They use the word harm, that when a publication or a broadcast has caused harm on them, maybe perhaps has imputed uh, some wrongdoing on them or has defamed their reputation. But to them, they use a general word that a publication or a broadcast has caused harm on them. So when they perceive that, instead of filing a criminal case for libel immediately, they can go, and most of them already go towards this alternative mode of dispute resolution or an ADR, which is arbitration through the media council, and again through the role played by the media ombudsman. So after our visit to Sweden, we were able to also draft and come up with our own, the Philippine Change Initiative, which was the creation of citizens media councils in the different uh, regions, provinces, localities in the Philippines. Our team agreed that in order to promote press freedom and freedom of expression, that one of the ways that we can do it is through the organizing, the creation of citizens media councils as uh, a mode of media self-regulation. We agreed that our common concern and advocacy is that the people's right to accurate information, the freedom of expression and press freedom. And we have agreed that for these rights, which are enshrined in our Constitution, even identified by our Supreme Court as the bedrock of our other civil liberties, they can only be enjoyed rather, when there are media practitioners that observe ethical standards. We know that in today's society, one of the problems that beset our society, our country, is that of fake news, disinformation, misinformation, and even malinformation. This has been a problem hounding our nation for the past several years. And this has been brought even to an exponential level because of the phenomenon of the internet, or access of more people towards the use of social media. So today, more and more people can present themselves as sources of information, but without necessarily observing the ethical standards of journalism. And many of these people do not really want to become subjected under any rule of conduct, perceiving them to be limitations on their personal freedom to express themselves. And of course, we can surmise that it does not help in gaining more clicks or views, which in turn they can monetize. So many social media practitioners and even media practitioners, its goal is, of course, to maximize audience reach. And so practices like sensationalism is resorted to, and sometimes really it's more about the entertainment value of what a person is communicating to the public, rather than delivering accurate, timely news or information. One problem is that while we know that there's already established communities for journalists, but many do not want to become a part of this group that would follow certain rules of conduct to ensure that they are able to perform their jobs in a professional manner. They don't want, and just like many people, when there's a rule or there's a limitation, they'd rather not be subjected to it if it's not also a requirement. The problem here, and not just in the Philippines, but in many other parts of the world, is that there's a thin line between freedom of expression and what we have as journalism. What one would say is that he presents himself to be a media practitioner or a source of information. You cannot prevent a person from expressing himself in a manner how he wants, as long as it does not pose any imminent danger to society. So our cherished right to freedom of expression is sometimes abused by people who will now become or presenting themselves as sources of information. So we cannot censor, we cannot prevent people from expressing themselves. And so the danger is that people gravitate towards these people who present themselves as sources of information, who are entertaining, or that they have this sensational way of bringing the news, so to speak. No? But in the process, the people actually are not able to receive accurate information when these people who present themselves as sources of information really is out there not to provide the news, but to just to gain more clicks, more views, and use these different styles or techniques, and thereby sacrificing sometimes, most of the times, the truth, which is what our people deserve. And so, in our change initiative, the creation of a multi-sectoral media council is one of the ways that we can promote self-regulation within media practitioners and create incentives within the said multi-sectoral citizens media council, which can increase or ensure that media practitioners or those who even utilize social media would want to become a part of this organization and thereby subject themselves to the ethical code of conduct because of incentives that are there, or reasons that they would want to become a part of a media council of an organization that would provide guidance or rules on how to conduct your acts in delivering information or news to the people. So the proposal is that within that multi-sectoral, for example, you can have, instead of just only media practitioners in the council, you would have the government, your local government units. You would have business sector representatives or organizations, of course, media outlets, and civil society, even the academe, and even the religious sector. Because one thing is for sure, all sectors, all people deserve the truth. And if our media is the gatekeepers of the truth, who delivers the truth, we have a common concern and a common mission to ensure that those that people will regard as sources of information actually provides accurate information. Okay. So in a multi-sectoral citizens council, so local government can be a part of it, business sector, academe, religious sector, civil society, like the Integrated Bar of the Philippines. So in this case, local government can perhaps provide tax incentives to local business or businesses that would advertise through our local media outlets. So they can create an ordinance that would provide these tax incentives. Okay, if you're a business operating within the political jurisdiction of the local government unit, every peso that you spend on advertisement that is made through our local media outlets that are members of the council, then that can be credited or utilized as tax credits, for instance. That could be one. Or even providing incentives or tax breaks on your real property tax or business tax, whatever. But so long as there are incentives, and local government units can actually do this and have been doing this for different reasons. One of which is to invite business. And to me, what better reason to do it if it is for the truth? Okay, so then the businesses who also advertise, and then they are able to advertise because they have an incentive to do so. And this has been I have been hearing of this common concern also that is prevalent in our country today, is that our media outlets are losing revenue because unlike before, that the best or the strongest way of advertising is through either broadcast or print media. Now can be done through social media. But we all know that business outfits still advertise through this traditional ways, no? Or even if you utilize social media. But the point is that now they would be more than willing to advertise in local media outlets because they have an incentive coming from the local government unit. And so when they advertise, then local media outlets, especially those that are members of the media council, that are following the code of ethical standards, then the problem about local business revenue is addressed. And because they meet, they see each other during council meetings, there is now an open line of communication between these different sectors. So, I'm sorry. So one of the incentive that the IBP would want to be a part of in these media councils, or can be a part of rather, is precisely the playing the role of the media ombudsman in the local or media citizens council. So our local IBP chapters can become a part of this change initiative of protecting press freedom and people's right to accurate information and freedom of expression through media self-regulation in this mechanism of creating local citizens media council by performing the role of the media councils, similar to that of the media ombudsman in Sweden, which is first to defend press freedom whenever there is an attack against it. No? So the IBP, it's our local officers in the chapters can become part of the media council. And whenever there is an act being performed by any actors, which is an attack on press freedom, then they can issue a statement, calling out such an attack on this constitutional right of ours, and even perhaps develop a free legal aid program for members of the media council, especially our legitimate media practitioner or members, to provide legal aid whenever they are harassed by harassment suits. No? But one of them, okay, also again, is to provide that alternative dispute resolution mechanism within the Media Citizens Council. So what is alternative dispute resolution? So alternative dispute resolution refers to the different ways people can resolve disputes without going to trial or going to court or filing, in our case, without needing to be filing cases for libel and damages. No? So the common alternative dispute resolution processes include mediation, wherein a mediator, a third person, a neutral person, will bring the disputing parties together and help them find an amicable solution to their dispute. Okay. Another form is arbitration. When a third party neutral, or the arbitrator hears from the disputants, the two parties that are involved in a conflict, the arbitrator listens and hears, and then issues an arbitral award. No, so similar to a judge who adjudicates based on the law, our proposal here is that the media ombudsman, or in our case, we can call it whatever we want. We don't need to call it media ombudsman. We just use that in order to refer to what the Swedish model has. In our case, then the IBP chapter officers can then perform that role of providing this alternative dispute resolution. So, for example, when a businessman who is a member of the Citizens Media Council, who has been advertising in local media and also has been receiving incentive from local government. So if, for instance, there was a news that was published by a local media outlet, a local newspaper, let's say, they published a news that was to him harmful to him. For instance, it imputed that he is involved in some corrupt practices, but he says that, why was I not even asked or interviewed, or why was my side not even taken before they printed this? No? So when he felt that he was harmed, instead of just the only option he has is, I will file a case for libel against that writer and its publisher, because I have to vindicate my rights and protect my reputation. Okay, so as an alternative, he would have the alternative option now, to go to the media council, to the ombudsman, which in our case we're proposing that it would be the IBP chapter officers, then files a complaint. Then the media ombudsman or the arbitrator would first then call them, the parties who are both members of the council. Okay, this is the complaint. According to the businessman, you printed or published a news item, but alleging something against him, but without observing our rules, that you should have at least also interviewed him or taken his side of the story. Okay, so then they explain themselves. So if they are able to meet or to agree already during mediation, they talk it out, then well and good. The conflict is resolved without the need to say whether or not one has committed a crime against the other. If the other person already feels na, usually we will hear, as long as you make a retraction or a public apology, because most persons really just wants that their reputation is protected. You make a retraction that this was an error, or that you failed to observe your own rules on how to submit reports. If they're not able to reach an amicable settlement through the help of the ombudsman acting as a mediator, then it can go towards arbitration already. So what they have offered, the complaint states that this media or news item has caused harm on me because it printed or published something that imputes on my reputation, and I was not even asked my side of the story. So the role of the arbitrator is not to determine whether or not what was said is true or not, no, because that would be the same as what the courts will do, but rather the basis is only whether or not the rules or the ethical standards were followed by the media practitioner. If it is determined, so in our scenario, that yes, you did not ask his side of the story, which is against our rules and our ethical standards, so then there can be an arbitral award without necessarily delving into the truth of the matter. So as compared to court litigations, utilizing alternative dispute resolution would be less costly. We know when we file cases in court, they will we will be expected to be spending much of our resources. No? It is very costly to go to court. Of course, ADR is done privately, so it can be done in the IBP office, or media citizens office, if one can be had, instead of a public trial, wherein everything will be even more publicized. So people usually want to talk about the problem privately if you're really only after protecting your reputation or the truth. No. ADR's goal is reconciliatory. You want the disputants who are members of an organization, the media council, to reconcile, no? Because that is what brings about true and genuine peace. In court, the goal is to determine whether or not a crime is committed or damage was committed by one person against the other. So when the court already makes an adjudication, makes a decision, an order, example, determining that A is correct, B has committed a crime against him, and so B is ordered to pay or go to jail, then it is the conflict actually, or the dispute, is not actually resolved. The conflict will still remain between them. Fortunately, people will just say, I was cheated, that's why I lost the case. But the point is, in ADR, you want that the conflict is resolved and that the relationship is repaired. That's why it's reconciliatory. And it promotes open communication. In court, we know that the only persons who are able to speak are the counsels, no? And then there is a very formal mode of communication. You cannot even address the court or the other parties directly, right? But in alternative dispute resolution, it's open communication. You can utilize any more form of communication. You can write, you can text. You want to be one talking alone together as parties only without need for counsel, or if you want counsel together. So it's very flexible. The point is that there has to be open communication rather than observing strict rules and only who can say what and when. And precisely because of the technical rules being observed in court litigation, which are not present in alternative dispute resolution. There are not much technical rules. What's important is that parties come together, talk it out, find an amicable solution, or at the very least, then the arbitrator determines whether or not there was harm that was committed. There are also limitless remedies. So in our case, our proposal is that similar to what is being done in Sweden, you do not determine whether a crime is committed, no? Because sometimes the remedy that businessman, for instance, is only looking for is that just make a correction and then make a public apology that you made a mistake. That will be enough for the businessman or to most people, because then they would feel that their reputation is protected, is rectified. In court, the remedy is that whether there was a crime committed, no? So you're either guilty of a crime or has caused damage to another, so they have to follow what the law provides as a remedy. Okay? You go to jail, or you pay this or that, which might not be what the parties or the complainant is really after, right? So in our case, the media ombudsman first tries to mediate. If not, then he determines whether or not there was harm committed by the media practitioner or the other party because they did not follow the strict rules and the ethical standards. Of course, it should be a shorter proceedings, and we know cases in our country, unfortunately, takes a long time before they are actually terminated, because you still have many other remedies of appeal, and there's a hierarchy of courts, of course, that one can go to. And then, so a case of a publication that is perceived to be wrongful or has caused harm can take years before there is an adjudication, a final adjudication. But in alternative dispute resolution, it can be so much shorter. So when they have open communication, they talk, if they come to a common agreement, then it is finished. If not, then the arbitrator determines based on those standards whether or not the publication caused harm because one or some of the rules or of the ethical standards were not followed. And when it is done, then a criticism is issued and published. So it should serve as a it rectified the wrong, no? Because people will see na dili day siguro to tinuod, because there is a determination by the media council that there was a violation of the rules of ethical standards. Then it is finished. So much shorter proceedings. So as our change initiative, the proposal is that to embed this alternative dispute mechanism, dispute resolution mechanism within the council, and the local chapters of our integrated bar of the Philippines can provide this as one of the incentives, as its contribution to the council, and can become one of the incentives why one would want to become a member, especially for media practitioners. You want these kinds of disputes to be resolved in this manner rather than always being subjected to libel cases, which are criminal proceedings. Okay, so because of it's an alternative resolution mechanism, it can go hand in hand uh, while there's still that continued advocacy to decriminalize libel. So it can be similar to Sweden. While the law, yes, is there, but hopefully people would choose this alternative rather than filing cases in court immediately, you know, because of all those positive uh, consequences in choosing ADR rather than court litigation. Okay, so I think I've explained this. At first, the arbitrator will try to mediate, and if no mediation or amicable settlement is reached, then it's done through an arbitral award. And after investigating the facts to the complaint, only it determines only if the journalist or the media practitioner has violated any of the ethical standards. And then if yes, then criticism is issued, is published, and then minimal fees can also be imposed for administrative purposes. So our theory of change is that if there are incentives like the tax breaks and then this alternative dispute resolution mechanisms, other incentives can be put in place. If there are incentives, more people who are in media or wants to become a media practitioner will join the Citizens Media Council because there's an incentive for them. And if more people in media are in or members of the Media Council, then more media practitioners are bound by the ethical standards. And if more people who are sources of information are bound by ethical standards, then there are more ethically bound media practitioners, and the public will have more access to accurate information because the people who are perceived to be or present themselves to be sources of information follows these ethical standards and promotes the truth. So that is our theory of change, and I hope I have been able to explain our theory of change and our change initiative uh, to you, that you would want also to introduce this or put this in your media council as one of the incentives. Thank you very much. Ug maayong hapon sa atong tanan. Oh.